if we can find a seat after you get your refreshments.
If you haven't had anything to eat or drink, then just
No, I got seat over here.
So just a little bit of introduction and welcome you all here. It's great to hear the young voices amongst us. And but anyway, that I guess many of you know the story of the Little League, its foundation. And you've probably heard the story. I've heard it at least 70 times. But for those who haven't heard it, that there was someone by the name of Al Mulliner, and he was the manager of the Newberry's 5 and 10, the equivalent of the dollar store in downtown Hammonton. And so they had a fountain, and when the store closed at 9 o'clock, Al and a lot of his friends who were all interested in sports and so forth, they would all come for a cup of coffee and spend some time together. So Al was a very charismatic person. I mean, you just couldn't meet him without just being dazzled with him. And so he heard about in Williamsport, someone by the name of Carl Stotts, who had begun something it was called in those days, Little Big League, not to be distinguished between Little League. So as the story goes, that he asked Herb Giuliano, who was a sportsman and friend, to travel to Williamsport to get the dimensions of the field. And as the story goes, that Herb took the train, got a taxi, went and climbed over a fence, and he got all the dimensions from the field, scrambled back over the fence and to the train and came home. And so that they had the beginnings of the Little League. So we were actually, Hammonton was the first in New Jersey to have a Little League team. And Carl Stotts, who was the founder, he heard about it, gave Al Mulliner a call, and everybody ended up happy, and he asked Al to kind of sponsor them in New Jersey in order to expand the Little League. So in 1947, and we're almost ready for you, Earl. In 1947, there was the first year that New Jersey participated in this. We were the only New Jersey team. And I have to mention that the people that were the townspeople at the time who were worked their tails off to get in the field ready to plant the grass and groomed it. And literally that they were funded by passing the hat at the game. And I can remember it, and it was literally a hat that would go at the stand. So there was no funding from anywhere. It was just the hard work by a group of dedicated people. So I think that what I should do now is we have Earl Rehmann for the 1947 All-Stars, in 1948 Frank Corelli, and 1949 Art Crowder, and then we jumped suddenly from 75 years to Rita Black and to Brandon Watson. I don't know why I can remember that. Okay, so with that, Earl, I'll turn it over to you for the moment.
Okay, good evening and thank you everybody for letting me be part of this historic occasion. 75 years of Little League Baseball in Hammonton. What a terrific occasion. I want to make this fun because this was a fun time of my life. So let's all enjoy everything tonight. I may say a couple of things, be redundant on what Bill said, but here we go. Many of you may remember the TV program Mission Impossible. An agent gets a phone call from an unknown dispatcher saying, We have a mission for you if you care to accept. Well, it was a difficult mission. A few weeks ago, I received a phone call from Bill Parker saying, I have a mission for you if you would care to accept. I want you to come to a meeting of the Historical Society and explain what we did on our Little League All-Star trip to Williamsport. That's 75 years ago, people. Any of you here remember what you did 75 years ago, if you were 75 years old? Well, I'll give it a try. Here's what I remember about 1947. We were the first out-of-state team to compete in what was billed as the first Little League All-Star World Series. A big story, but I'll get to that in a minute. I believe it was an even larger story in Hammonton in 1947. 1947 was only 2 years after World War II. There was no organized sports in Hammonton, except in the schools. Nothing to prepare you for making that team in the schools either. Baseball was a popular sport. Football had not even really got off running so far. Basketball was only a dream. Soccer was not even known. But in baseball, it took just very little equipment. You had to have a ball, glove, and what available, a bat. Weren't too many of them around because in World War II things were scarce. We went out. We had catches. It only takes two to have a catch. You can learn a lot with having a catch. How to hold the glove when the ball's this high, fingers down when it's low, and so forth. But we could do that for hours. We did. And if we had a bat, we hit fly balls to each other. But very few games. And then, as Bill explained, a few men had a vision of organized baseball program for boys. Al Mulder, as he mentioned, Herb Giuliano, Bill Slack are three members' names that I remember. There were more, but I just don't remember them. They heard of the Little League program in Williamsport, Pennsylvania. Some actually went to Williamsport and met with Little League founder Carl Stutz. The program got program regulations and ideas, and I said probably claimed the fence, as Bill said, and came back here and went to work. They established the age rules, 10, 11, and 12, with a cutoff date, which I made by about 3 weeks. The rules and the field dimensions. The field dimensions were very strict. They went to work and they did a lot of things. They convinced the town to set aside land in the lake park for the ball field. It's right over there now, it's still there. They lined up sponsors and money for the 6 teams that they were going to field. The original sponsors were the Exchange Club, Kiwanis, Miller's Department Store, if anybody remembers them, Newberry's 5 and 10, Kern's Pharmacy, and Dual Motors. I think only Exchange and Kiwanis still exist today. Uniforms and equipment were ordered for teams, 6 teams of 15 boys each. Playing field was constructed. Local contractors and merchants were donated their trucks to haul gravel, which was also donated, and equipment to spread it, roll it, and wood for a fence. My father, Earl Rehmann Sr., a civil engineer and land surveyor, he laid out the field to the specific Little League regulations. Foul lines, of course, and bases, I believe they're 60 feet apart. Am I correct on that? 2/3 the normal size. Pitch and mound 40 feet, and the fencing 190 feet all the way around. Foul lines, even to center field, 190 feet. Had to get coaches, umpires. They were all recruited. They got men that knew something about baseball and something about handling of kids and relating and teaching to kids. Women set up in a concession stand to raise desperately needed funds. Passed a hat. We always passed a hat, as Bill said. People put in what change they had, sometimes a full dollar bill. And Mr. Seeley, Charles Seeley's father was our treasurer, and he was about this tall. And he passed the hat. We called him Pop Seeley all the time, except for the 1 year in high school when we were in his 9th grade general science class. We called him Mr. Seeley. The teams were organized. We had to have a specific number of 10, 11, and 12-year-old boys. No 12-year-old boy could pitch in the first year. We expected, when got uniforms, we only expected shirts and hats, but we got full uniforms, and boy, were we excited. This, I believe, was the really big story in 1947 Hammonton. 100 boys got to play organized baseball. Play started, inexperience showed. We had a lot of errors. Balls, when you went to field the ball, some guys went this way because they knew the ball was hard. And we didn't know whether a fly ball was going to be caught in the glove or on top of somebody's head. The wild throws all over the place. But boys learned. And as we progressed, flies got caught, grounders got picked up, throws got to first base sometimes. It was a great year. Now, about our all-star trip. First of all, it's always an honor to be named on an all-star team. And we were. 15 boys selected, at least one from each team, 3 coaches. It was Bill Slack was the head coach, Herb Giuliano, and Puggy Nicastro was the other coach. There, in one of these pictures here, you can see him. Now, don't ask me what Puggy's first name was, because I never heard him called anything else. At practice, we had practice. We determined which positions we were going to play, and we were announced that we were going to go to Williamsport to play in a Little League World Series. And boy, what excitement there was. I always wanted to go to Williamsport. I love Williamsport. I can't wait to get to Williamsport. And where's Williamsport? Darn if I know. Somewhere north of Atco, I believe. Well, we headed up, we were expecting to go on like a school bus. But when we arrived at Kern's Pharmacy, our departure point, we found a really nice bus, just like those that came through Hammonton to take the passengers. And we stayed in the best hotel in town in Williamsport, the Lycoming Hotel. Of course, it was only the only hotel in town, but it was nice. It was clean rooms, clean beds, good food, and nice staff. I can't remember a thing we ate, but we ate and nobody complained and everybody behaved themselves. We were used to eating what was there because we had come through World War II, and you were too picky on what you had to eat. You just ate what was rationed, and you were glad to get it. On our day one, game day, we got to the field and found a great grass field, stands, PA system, a huge dike around the right field and center field that separated us from the Susquehanna River. And people sat on that dike and watched games, and kids rolled down. They had a great time rolling down that dike. We played Milton, Pennsylvania Midgets, and we won that game. I believe it was 4-2, if I vaguely remember the score. Maybe Frankie or Otha may know differently, but I think it was 5-2. And Joe DiGiacomo was our pitcher, and he was only 10 years old. He was a good pitcher. He was a natural pitcher. He knew he could throw a fastball, but he knew if he threw it down the middle, it was going to get hit. So he knew how to cut the corners, throw it up and down, and he did a great game, and pitched a great game, as you'll probably hear from the next couple guys. In the afternoon, we had off, and what do you think we did? We found a playground outside the ballpark there. We had a baseball game. And Billy Jacobs, I don't know if you remember that name, but he was one of our chaperones on that trip there. He stayed with us there. Game 2, next day we played Loch Raven, Pennsylvania, and we lost that game 3-1. It was a good game, good fielding, pitching, and we picked up balls and threw to first base, and but we just could only manufacture that one run. Loch Raven went on to the championship game and lost to Maynard, Pennsylvania, who was the first Little League World Series champion. There were many people in the stands at that time from other parts of the country, other states, to observe Little League. And they went home with franchises and set up their Little Leagues all around the country. Well, it was Northeast for mainly at that time, but it did swell, as you know, around the country and world. We returned home and were met by a great cheering crowd in front of Kern's Pharmacy, who had our scores whitewashed on his front window there. And it was a great time. It was an honor to be part of this experience, and it's something I'll never forget. Thank you.
Thank you, Earl. You brought us back to almost like we were right there. So what we're going to do is we're going to go right down the line here for the moment. And so our next speaker is going to be one who was on the 1947 and the 1948 All-Stars. So we have Frank Corelli and his son, Frank Jr.
Thank you. When I asked my father to come out to this, he said yes, but like what Earl said, it was 75 years ago. I don't remember a thing. So he had given me the pictures of the 47 team and the 48 team, and when we look at it, all the familiar faces came back to him, and he starts naming the players and what fun they had together. So who do you remember the most? My father was a pitcher. And who was your catcher?
Mike DeLaurentis.
And when my father didn't pitch, he played what, left field? Right field. He played all the way through. Supposedly he was a good hitter. And I don't know, he says he remembers hitting a home run, but I'm not sure. There's nobody here to disprove it. But some of the stories I remember growing up, because when we used to go to Little League, my two brothers and I, it was always a chore to get us to going. And he would always make fun of us because he had to walk to practice at the Hammonton Lake all the way from the end of Middle Road just to meet practice. And he wasn't allowed to leave until he hoed some blueberries before and then after when he got back. So he told us this year after year, and I didn't know how much was it, just making stuff up. But then a friend of his, many years later, told me how good of a ball player he was. So I guess everything he told me all those years ago were true. But do you remember anything else of your time playing?
Well, no, not really.
Well, he played for Kiwanis on 1947 team, 48. The 47 team, actually my uncle, his brother, who's 2 years younger, McGee, also played on the same team. So I don't know if they were the only brother duo on the same team on the same year, but that's noteworthy. But other than that, that's our story. Thank you.
Great, Frank. Any questions for the 1948 All-Star? Okay. All right. So I think what we'll do now is that we'll move to 75 years later to the 2022 All-Star teams represented by Rita and by Brandon. And so, and then we'll conclude with the 49 World Series team. So with that, I'll give this to Rita, so you can stay there.
Hi, everyone. I'm Rita Black. I'm currently the secretary and the vice president for the Hammonton Little League Board. I've been a volunteer down the lake for a few years now, since 2012. I've been a softball coach since 2018. Both of my daughters love the game as much as I do. Being a 1989 and 1990 All-Star player myself, there's been significant changes. The selection process has been changed very much. In 1989 and 1990, and during my time as a Little Leaguer, the team consisted of all 9 and 12-year-old little girls. Now, the girls' teams are broken up into divisions. We have the minors, the majors, and the juniors. There is no machine to learn how to pitch. You took your pitches from an experienced 11 or 12-year-old girl. You had to learn how to hit. That being said, it was also a much different process for the All-Star selection. While you were still chosen by your coaches as much as we do now, you also had to go through practices and your tryouts. Doing some research and trying to find out a little bit of information of how softball All-Stars and how softball evolved, I wasn't able to come up with as much. I did speak to a couple of our members, but it was interesting to learn that the Hammonton softball has had their share of winning from our district. There's also multiple times that the Hammonton softball has had they've hosted the states at our little lake park. We were close 2 times, but we came up short with the states. The 1949 and 47 team still holds the title for going to the World Series. And thank you so much. You are an inspiration to our Little Leaguers, and we're happy to have you. And we were so glad to be invited tonight. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Brandon Watson. Actually the newly elected president of the Hammonton Little League. And I also have been a manager for the All-Stars 3 times. So All-Stars is a little different now. They do 10, 11, and 12-year-olds like they did in the past. I believe that's what these gentlemen were saying. But they also have multiple divisions and multiple tournaments. So there's an 8, 9, and 10-year-old tournament. There's a 9, 10, and 11-year-old tournament, and then there's a 10, 11, and 12-year-old tournament. So there's Little League has grown drastically over the last 75 years, no doubt about it. So basically how the teams are selected usually is by the managers of the majors division. So this year, I believe we have 4 teams in the majors, and some of those names are familiar. Kiwanis is still a team, Dinonatos, Marinellas. Now I'm missing one. Bellevue Drug. Rotary's still around too. So there's multiple teams. The coaches then select 2, 3, 4 of the best players, and they put them up for a vote. When a player is unanimously voted on, they're automatically on the team. If you get 3 votes, then you're up for discussion. And it goes round and round till all 11 or 13 spots are filled. So you can carry 11 players or you can carry 13 players now. 13, the playing time is different. So there's mandatory play time by Little League standards. If you carry 11 players, you have to play 6 consecutive defensive outs, and then you have to have 1 at bat. When you carry 13 players, the player only has to get 1 at bat. So that's the differences there. Little League is trying to get more kids involved and more kids on the teams. That's why they open it up to the 13, 14 kids. Another drastic change is now we have districts. So we are a member of District 16. District 16, we do what's called pool play. So pool play You play 4 or 5 teams in your pool, and the top 2 teams from that pool will advance to play the top 2 teams from the other pool. And then you enter a double elimination tournament. If you come out of District 16 as the winner of the double elimination tournament, you then advance to what's called sectionals, and you play all the district winners from Section 4, which is located mostly South Jersey. The 10-year-old team 2 years ago won the district, and they lost in the sectional finals, so they made it really far. This year, we weren't so lucky we didn't get out of the district, but it's very tough. It's very competitive. After sectionals, you go to states. So the winners from the 4 different sections of New Jersey now play each other in a state tournament. That is where it ends for the 8, 9, and 10-year-olds. Once we get to the 10, 11, and 12-year-old division, that's the one you see on TV. That's the Williamsport. That's the Little League World Series that these gentlemen participate in, and we're lucky enough to win. It's a great, great achievement. It really is. So once they win that, then you go to regions, and that's when you see it on ESPN. So you can see the coverage now. I think when I was a child, back in the 80s and the 90s, you would see the championship game, and that would be it. It would be on ABC on a Sunday afternoon. Now you can watch all the way up from regionals, which starts, I think, 2 weeks prior to even the teams advancing to Williamsport. So it's definitely evolved, but the whole philosophy of Little League has always been to, and I took this from their website, but the mission of Little League has remained the same. Little League believes in the power of youth baseball and softball to teach life lessons and build stronger individuals and communities. To this date, Little League still remains the world's largest organized youth sports program, and that's crazy, over 75 years where it's evolved to now. So, thank you for having us tonight. I really appreciate the invite. It was a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, Brandon, and Rita, and thank you for your service to the community. Where would we be without you guys? So anyway, before that, we go to 1949. First, we're going to hear from Art. But I would just have a couple of stories I have to tell about my experience. So I was in 1949, but I didn't make the All-Stars. And so I did make as the first baseman for Kiwanis. And on the first game, our pitcher was Bucky Craig. I don't know if anybody remembers him, but he was an All-Star. And so you still see it today that the first ball that was hit bounced to him, and he picked it up, and you still see it today. Sometimes the pitcher will throw it overhand to the first baseman, sometimes they'll throw it underhand. So Bucky, I guess he didn't really have that, enough confidence in me at that point. First game, first time first baseman, and so he kind of walked over a little bit, and he got it, and he just threw it underhand like that. I dropped it. So it's funny that those things are so 73 years ago, and they're still as distinct as they were at the time it happened. The second thing I remember is that you'll hear about Joe DiGiacomo. And so one of the coaches said, before the first time I faced him, he said, he's so fast that when you see the ball leave his hand, just swing, which I did. And believe it or not, the ball hit my bat. It bounced a few feet and I got thrown out, but at least I could say I batted against Joe Giacomo and I got a hit. Finally, so our coach was Coach Mike DeRisi, and I love that guy. And so anyway, he had one standing offer that if you hit a home run, you were taken to Kern's Pharmacy where they had a soda fountain and to get a banana split. Okay, Frank remembers that, right? So anyway, on this day of this game, that we had some in the team that hit home runs, and I had a ground rule double. Those you don't know it, the one that bounces over the fence. So we were kind of lined up outside the dugout after the game, and he was reading off the names of the people who were going to Kearns. He looked at me, and I must have looked at him longingly. I don't know why I'm so emotional. And he said, "Okay, Parker, it's you too." So I got my banana split. Okay. All right. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Art, and then from there we will go to we have a 10-minute video. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but I'll announce it.
Thanks, Bill. Bill called me at home and said, Art, you're the only surviving member of all three teams of 47, 48, and 49. I said, what do you mean, Bill? I'm only surviving member. Then he went on and explained about all three teams. But it was a wonderful experience. I'm always glad to be back home. I'm talking at home, I'm talking right here in Hammonton, New Jersey. From 10 years old, 12, 10, 11, and 12. But this is where I was born, this is where I was raised, and played baseball all the time. That's all we did. But it was a wonderful experience. Thank you very much. Glad to be home.
So that I have something that I want to read to you, so that everybody knows about Joe DiGiacomo and winning the finals for us. But I have to read you something else, and this was the championship game between Kearns and Dual Motors. Joe DiGiacomo was the pitcher for Kearns. And guess who was the pitcher for Dual Motors? He's sitting right here with me. Okay. And so here's what the Gazette reported about him in 2009. Crowder was a perfect 8-0 on the mound, then won 2 of the 3 games in the championship series, both over Kearns' Joey DiGiacomo, the league's best pitcher. The last game of the regular season pitted DiGiacomo against Crowder with Dual Motors' perfect record on the line. Crowder matched the big left-hander pitch for pitch, and Dual came away with a 2-1 victory. The two aces met again in Game 1 of the championship series, where DiGiacomo struck out 14 batters, but lost 3-1 to Crowder, who recorded 11 strikeouts. In Game 2, Dual won again, 4-0, behind Blasso's outstanding pitching and Joe Lanza's solo home run, and on and on. So anyway, I thought that would give you some idea of the skills of Mark. So before we go in the video, does anybody have any questions they would like to address to anybody here?
I was wondering who the team is that we got visiting.
Oh, yes, but, yeah.
So
Brandon?
this is the 10-year-old All-Stars, and there's a couple of representatives of the 12-year-old All-Stars. So there was 2 teams at the boys level.
Pardon? All right, so I had a question. Did you have a question?
I just want to say a couple words.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, let's see, I played Little League Baseball in 1948, and 9, and 50. So I was playing in 1949 when the All-Star team was picked. Unfortunately, I didn't make the All-Star team, but I played for Kearns. And I played for Kearns, and the Kearns was a pharmacy and a what would you call it?
Well, they had a soda fountain, that's what you were
Yeah, and they had a fountain, right? So every time we win a game, right, we would go over to Kearns and we would get treated to a treat, a sundae or banana split or whatever, right? So on the 1949 team, there was Nunzi Sacco, who was my classmate. Ron DeMarco was my cousin, and it was a whole bunch of personal friends. Gaten Capelli was my personal friend for years. He was the catcher. So I feel like I was part of that team, even though I wasn't on the All-Star team. But it was a great experience for me, and I remember the team like it was yesterday. I remember all you guys, right? So it was a great experience for me, so thanks again.
Okay, is any other questions, or anybody wants to present anything?
I don't have a question. Does she have a burger?
We didn't get the question.
Does he have a turn?
Does she have a turn?
Does he have a,
A turn to talk.
oh, does he have a turn?
There to talk.
Okay. Any other, okay, so I guess we're ready to set up, Deb, wherever you are for the video. Oh.
Baseball and boys go hand in hand. That's an American tradition. And every youngster has his very special dream about being a second Babe Ruth. A Joe from Joe DiMaggio. Or maybe it's the trumpet, Ted Williams. Who knows? Yes, sir? It won't be long now till they're right up there with the best of them in the big leagues. Hi, Captain. Want a game, chum? Okay, let's choose sides. Here we go, gang. Well, the guy does his best with what he has and hopes for better days and ways. You just keep on trying, and sometime you're bound to get a break. Something new is on the score sheet. It originated in Williamsport, Pennsylvania, and it's Little League Baseball. Made to order for boys 8 to 12, it helps make those dreams come true. Little League rolls out the welcome mat for the corner locker. Gives a good deal to a game guy. Entirely amateur and completely non-profit, Little League is primarily a local community undertaking. Played on scaled-down diamonds with a home run fence 180 feet away. Grounds and game activities are capably supervised by men with the know-how. If available, the use of a public address system adds up to more efficient operation. An accurate gauge measures all Little League bats for size. And a snappy uniform is topped off by a pair of, get this, rubber cleated shoes. Good safety insurance. This playing gear is the same as the majors, but junior size, of course. And Little League has its own official specification ball, and all games are played under special rules similar to those of the major leagues. Yes, indeed. The corner lots from coast to coast are in for a facelifting as more and more boys are playing our national game the Little League way, not overlooking that big-time touch, the clubhouse showers. It has been out in the big leagues, too. And Ford Frick, president of the National League, is a solid Little League fan. Mr. Frick.
Little League Baseball is one of the most magnificent things that's ever happened to our national game. But you can't dismiss it there. It represents sportsmanship. It represents team play. And it represents the desire to succeed. We can use that. For that is real Americanism. Little League Baseball is making a great contribution for us. For it is developing the character of the youth of a new generation. And that, believe me, is a big league job. You know, it's a lot of fun watching a Little League ball game because you see and you hear those things that are, well, they're a fulfillment of all a boy's dreams. And the first thing you know, you're right in there swinging with them. Again, Little League Baseball is magnificent. And we're for it all the way.
At Williamsport, Pennsylvania, the welcome sign is out for the Little World Series. And among the first of the air arrivals is fittingly the governor of Pennsylvania, the Honorable James H. Duck. Another plane breezes in with a contingent of newsreel, television, and radio personalities headed by ace sportscaster Ted Husing, who is greeted by a delegation of Little Leaguers and gets the key to the city, no less. And they come by train. Eager beavers ready to belt them over the fence. What'll you bet? Top Business, too, is here for the series, headed by United States Rubber, with H.E. Humphreys Jr. in the lead. The reception committee is really something. And still they come, rolling on rubber from far and near. Solid baseball fans, young and old alike, all bound for the greatest amateur boys event on the sports calendar. The National Tournament of Little League Baseball, where 8 teams play off annually for the Little League World Series Championship. Governor Duff greets the baseball throng and tosses out the opening ball of the tournament. We're in the final now, the big game between the Florida All-Stars and the likely lads from down New Jersey way. Thousands of loyal Little League fans are all set to shop themselves hoarse for the winning tries of these knee-high guys. Here's the big parade that ushers in the championship game of the Little League World Series. Man and boy, what a band. Get an eye treat of these Little Leaguers. Every mother's son of them is mighty proud to be in line of march, and the crowd's equally proud to see them there. Yes, sir, it's the players' social register of the Little League, the boys who made the tournament grade. Williamsport's Mayor Leo C. Williamson introduces the MC Tommy Richardson, who presents the Commissioner of Little League Baseball, Carly Stotts. Next, Selena Palmer, composer of the march to which you are listening, officially dedicates it to Little League. The president of the Canadian American League is escorted to the mic by a delegation of Little Leaguers, and fans like that touch. Roy Mack Jr., son of baseball's great, takes a bow. U.S. Rubber's president, Harry E. Humphreys Jr., proudly plays host to the visiting Little Leaguers. Ford Frick, president of the National League, gets a royal welcome from the crowd. Commissioner Stotts announces a traditional ceremony, and due honor and respect is paid our flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The crowd settles down. Stand by. Here comes an announcement.
Here are the countries for today's game. For New Jersey, the Giacomo and Capelli, for Florida, Thurman and Miller. The umpires, Van Scare, Howard Scare, and Sid Miller.
The plate gets the traditional dust off, but good. Newsreel and television cameras are ready to roll. And over a nationwide hookup, here's a play-by-play report of the game by Ted Husing. Take it away, Ted.
Roger. Here we go from Little League Stadium, Williamsport. Hammonton, New Jersey on the field, Joe DiGiacomo pitching. Jasper Falzone of Pensacola, Florida at bat. He looks at the first pitch and the umpire calls it ball 1. The Florida left fielder in this big game of the Little League World Series digs into the plate. Now he takes the second pitch, and the man says ball 2. Out there on the hill, Joey bears down, but not hard enough. Ball 3. For those Hammonton Rooters, looks like a very bad beginning. The 3-0 pitch. High and outside, and Jasper Falzone's throw. You might forget they're not grown-up big leaguers if that Jersey first baseman didn't chew bubble gum. Florida second baseman Dave Cobb at the plate. Well, it looks like Joey's getting the range. That was strike 1, the first one he's gotten over. Catcher Gabe Capelli flashes the sign. And that's okay with Joe. Look at that windup, that foot action. It's hard to realize he's only 12. At the pitch, an attempted bunt that's missed for strike 2. Big league man of ball, eh, fans? No balls, 2 strikes. Joe tries for the corner and misses. Ball 1. Say, there's quite a Hammonton contingent in the stands rooting for the big pitcher. Still ahead of the batter, he delivers. Ball 2 and 2. Say, for just a big gangling kid, he's got control. I got news for you, you're out. One down, man on first to Pensacola. It's a real thrill to watch these youngsters. First baseman Frankie Willis up for Florida. He lets the first pitch go by. Ball 1. Well, let's chew on that one. See, that boy that was up there swinging was the star for Florida the year before, when they were runners up in the School Kids Classic. Hey, where were we? Oh, yeah. 1 ball, 1 strike, fouls one for Blue swings again, and strike 2. The base runner wants Frankie to send him along. Now, the 1-2 pitch. Willis puts it over. Ball 2, making the count 2 and 2. Out on the mound, Joey gets organized, and Willis puts it to third strike. So you like that baseball fan? Well, me too. Foul zone, still on first, and catcher Jerry Miller batting for Florida. That's the first one go by. Up, racks up, ball 1. Miller takes the 1-0 pitch, and it's strike 1. Foul zones on his way to second. The Phillies throws no good, and Jambo is safe stealing. Hey, no small fry, must be from Florida. There's the next pitch. Miller swings strike 2. Wow, now the hit means a run with that man on second. DiGiacomo puts everything on the ball and freezes it past Miller for strike 3. And foul zone dies on second. In the Jersey half of the first, the fans see Nuncy Sacco lead off for Hammonton, Chet Dungan pitching for Pensacola. Strike 1, he says. Pitcher Dungan's got the range, but so is Sacco. And he socks one to first. It goes through once and out into right. Sacco is safe on an error. Jersey's Bucky Craig misses the ball as Sacco breaks from first. Catches the first pick, the bag is wide, and Sacco is safe at second. Craig belts the next pitch, and Sacco races to third. Shortstop Tony Gable's throw is late for first. Safe all around, Sacco pulling to third. 2 Jerseyites up, 2 on, and now Joey able to play for the out plate, but Sacco beats the ball. Now Joey G is safe at first on a field of choice. Well, dust it off again, brother. Say, that was fast and furious, and I am out of breath just talking about it. Next man up, Tony Palazzo. He takes the first pitch, it's strike 1. You know, the kids call the Jersey first baseman Blitz. Just look at him swing. It's a foul for him, so go on back to third. Here comes the pitch, and Blitz looks it over. Ball 1. Something about that kid reminds the Yankee fans of Joe DiMaggio at the plate. He latches onto a clean hit in the left that sends Craig across with Jersey second run. Blitz goes to second on the throw, while DiGiacomo reaches third safely. Well, that's heads up ball. Those Hammonton youngsters really know how to run the bases, and remember, they've made only 1 clean hit. That's Gabe Capelli at the bat. He swings for strike 1. Oh, brother! Is that Joe DeG longing for home? There's the pitch. Shortstop able to for out number 1. It's tight, but Dungan's trying. He blazes one to DeMarco, and he misses it a mile. Chet winds up, and here's the pitch. Ball 1. No blow-up yet, and the kid stays along, doing his very best. Blitz Palazzo dancing off second as DeMarco now wraps one back to the ground. The speed down to shortstop, beats out Dungan, deep to first. Blitz speaks for third on the play, as Joe DiGiacomo got us home with run number 3 for Hammonton. Florida calls it an error on Dungan, which means the kid's given up exactly 1 hit. With 2 strikes on him, Al Marazi swings and he's out. The crowd's talking about what a game kid that Dungan is. With 3 and 2 on Jackie Rue, but Chet strikes him out. That's what big leaguers call pitching with the heart. As Pensacola comes in for their second at-bats, they're trailing Hammonton 3-0. Signatures of baseball's future greats. Now half the thrill is armchair scouting these stars. 12 years old, Joe DiGiacomo has poise and confidence plus. With 1 out and 2 strikes, Sonny Abel hits. Next, the count is 3 balls and 2 strikes on Florida's Bill Powers, and he goes down swinging. That's all for Pensacola in the second frame. 7 men up for Florida, 5 strikeouts, and no score. The umpire's count is 1 ball and 2 strikes on Steve Mazzio in Jersey's half of the second. Hey, looks like this kid means business, and he does. There's the safety of the center field. The way that hefty kid numbers along reminds Giant fans of Big Johnny Miles. And so, by the way, does that busted bat. Man, that 11-year-old to really put the whammy on it. Some fun. 3-1 on Sacco. He takes ball 4 on the walk. That puts men, or boys, I should say, on first and second for Jersey. Nobody's out as Bucky Craig steps up. The Hammonton shortstop dumps his second hit of the game off the third base line and reaches first safely. Steve has to wait for top of speed, so he's forced out at third. That brings Joey up again, and it's a strike. 1 out, 2 Jersey runners on. Some situation, eh, Steve? Joe takes, catches on Upset, and Nancy Sacco goes to third. Inside, they can run bases. There's the pitch, and Joe dumps it down toward third. Florida's Bill Palmer's up with it, holds Sacco to third, and his whip throw beats Joey to first. Number 11, that's Blitz Boy again, and he labels another for the same spot in left, riding in Captain Sacco with the 4th run, followed by Bucky Craig with run number 5. Looks like the roof going on Florida. Switch in the Pensacola lineup. Paul Holden pitching, gunned into short, able to right field. With the count 3-2 at the 23s, and Holden retires the side. Jersey 5 runs on 5 hits, 2 of them clean. Florida, no runs, no hits. It's Holden, Florida's new runner-up. With 2 strikes, he looks at the third. They're seeing some pitching. 8 men up, 6 strikeouts. Barrow bunts, and Joey scoops it up. And makes the field finish in the runner. That Joey boy's got what it takes. No Florida hit so far, and foul zone swings for strike 1. Who knows, maybe we're watching young Christian Anderson. The Jersey catcher flashes the sign, but that big kid pitcher thinks he knows his hitter. Jabro tugs at his cap like Dixie Walker, digs in. Here's the windup, the pitch, and the Florida starter. It's out in the right field, good for an extra base. Jabro around first, and then he goes into the dirt. As Lucy Sacco bumps the throw that's gathered up by shortstop DeMarco. And shot, kid, swoop it up. Now Pensacola turns it up. Top swing, strike 1. The kid's over anxious, and the crowd wants him to knock the cover off that ball. Brother, he's trying. Oops, right 2. It's your die for dear old Florida. But Cobb swings at number 3. Too bad, kid. But there are still 4 innings to play and plenty of baseball coming up. Florida's half of the third, no runs. And that's the way it goes, inning after inning. Both sides down in 1, 2, 3 order. A pitcher's duel with a second-generation big leaguer, young Paul Holden, holding those Jersey guys. 2 strikes on Joe DeGee, and he goes down swinging. That man's kids, he deserves it. Let's Palazzo with 2 balls and 2 strikes, swings, and he's out. Holden's got poise and confidence, too. The signal is okay. A big try by a good guy. He digs in with those rubber cleats and delivers to Gabe Capelli. There's a tap to the infield. Duncan comes up with it and throws that gate out. It's still 5-0 as Florida comes up for the 6th and last inning. Jersey pitcher DiGiacomo has faced 17 players, struck out 11 and allowed 1 hit. Great pitching in any league. 2 strikes on Falzone. The Florida right fielder dies swinging. Carrying on in the tradition of the pitching greats Matthewson, Johnson, and Alexander, you bet your life. A kid named Cobb at that now. And he gives it his old namesake's cross. Come on, fellow, let's see you label it. Whoop, strike 2. Don't worry so much, coach. Long as there's 1 strike left, there's a chance. Cobb puts everything behind it, but he fans. 2 down. Sit down, sister. Don't argue with the ump. Man, how a game like this gets you. Police for little brother. It's Frankie Willis at the plate. He looks at strike 1. Here comes the second pitch. Goes swing strike 2. Battle stations, men. But Willis fans. Sure, the better team won, but here's the greatest moment in that game. The losers joining in the tribute to Joey DiGiacomo. That, I am proud to say, is Little League sportsmanship. Now those well-earned Little League awards. Trophies and prizes for winners and losers alike, presented by United States Rubber. Good try, Florida. Better luck next time. Nice going there, New Jersey. You had what it takes. The Little League World Series champion. New Jersey All-Stars are front-page news, and Hammonton, New Jersey celebrates the event with a bang-up homecoming parade. Everyone's in there with the old cheer. The National Guard is on review. And the Boy Scouts show strength. Cubs, too. Hail to the champions. The conquering heroes get a big hand from the hometowners. The little big leaguers who turn the trick. Yes, and that's for sure. Not forgetting the boys who kept the home fires burning. And to top it off that evening, a banquet in honor of the champs, with Governor Alfred E. Driscoll of New Jersey as the distinguished guest. Hammonton, New Jersey is justifiably proud of its little leaguers, and to prove it, they're here in force to honor baseball best. Master of Ceremonies Ralph Skoulas calls on local Little League President Al Mona. U.S. Rubbers, W.H. Norton. G.M. Tisdale. H.S. Marla. Governor Driscoll's arrival is the signal for sustained applause. His Excellency, the Governor of New Jersey, the Honorable Alfred E. Driscoll.
Well, the Hammonton, New Jersey All-Stars are the champions of Little League Baseball. And that makes me, as governor of the state of New Jersey, very proud. Can you blame me? We ought not to forget that Florida team. They played like champions and won their way to the top. And then they were good losers. That's good sportsmanship. And good sportsmanship is even more important than the game itself. Well, tonight I want to congratulate Captain Nuncy Sacco. You represent a wonderful team that did a grand job.
Thank you, sir. We did our best. The Florida team was a swell bunch of guys. But you know something, Governor?
What's that, son?
Well, maybe we played better ball.
Oh, I'm sure you did. Good luck, son. Congratulations.
Our salute to Little League Baseball. To its principles and purpose of good sportsmanship. To the communities who back the Little Leagues. To the men throughout the nation whose volunteer service has provided outstanding leadership. And to the boys of America who make Little League Baseball possible. Play ball!
Just a couple thoughts. One is that, I don't know if you noticed, they mentioned the Pensacola, Florida player by the name of Falzone. So a few years ago, I got a call from his granddaughter who lived on the west side of Florida. And she said, all my grandfather ever talks about is he got the only hit. So she wanted to know if I could get her a video of it, and I did. She wanted to give it to for Christmas, and she wanted to be there on a certain day, and I sweated to get it and get it to her in time. And, yeah. So, and then I think that we should talk just a moment about the town fathers who did a wonderful job of putting together the parade and the banquet. So, I mean, how could they do that really with no real notice? You know? And so, I'm going to give you one inside story though. And the last frames that you will see was recreated. So my friend Nuncy was flown up with two of the color guard girls that you saw there. Was flown up to either Newark, probably Newark, not New York. And it was recreated with Governor Driscoll. But nobody knows that, but you guys are here now. So, Gaten Capelli's sister is here, is that right? Yeah, so do you have any thoughts or any comments, or? No, okay.
I can't even talk.
All right,
It was wonderful seeing the film again.
yeah, okay. Okay, yeah, Jan? I don't know that, maybe that you could look into it.
We have the trophy in the boys majors press box. It's displayed up where we meet.
Okay.
Our meetings.
Nice, nice. So I do know that they did show that they got a wristwatch and a trophy from the league. And I think with Hammonton, they supplied him with a new bicycle. So, is there any other thoughts? Good evening. All right. Well, we really do appreciate you all, coming and sharing this night with us, and especially all the little leaguers that are here and getting restless, and to the managers. Okay, so Rita tells me that she wants pictures with
The boys team would like to take pictures with each gentleman and just
boys and girls.
display them then.
Okay, yeah, so all the little leaguers need to get together for pictures following our meeting.